This episode of Her Design, Her Story is proudly supported by Royal Oak Floors, leaders in engineered oak flooring and long-standing partners of Australia's architecture and design community. Each board is shaped by virtues of oak, timeless, expressive, and perfect in its natural imperfection. Royal Oak Floors continues to pursue perfection so your space can tell its own story with confidence and style. See more at royaloakfloors.com.au. Adele Winteridge is the founder and director of Foolscap Studio, a Melbourne-based strategic design practice known for shaping some of Australia's most thoughtful brand and place experiences. With a background that spans graphic design, architecture, and urban strategy, Adele works at the intersection of brand, built environment, and storytelling, helping organisations translate complex ideas into meaningful experiences for people. Through Foolscap Studio, she has led projects that range from cultural institutions and precincts to civic and commercial spaces, collaborating closely with architects, developers, and city makers. Her work is driven by the belief that brand is not just visual identity, but a powerful framework for shaping how places feel, function, and connect with communities. Adele is widely recognised for her strategic approach to place branding and her ability to bring clarity and narrative to large-scale, multi-stakeholder projects. Beyond the studio, she is a respected voice in the design industry, frequently speaking about the evolving role of brand in the built environment and how design can help create spaces that are both distinctive and deeply human. Today, I'm looking forward to speaking to Adele about her journey, the philosophy behind Foolscap, and the future of place-led branding. Adele, welcome to Her Design, Her Story. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Very excited to speak to you. I have certainly loved watching your work from afar go strength to strength. And when we were talking the other day, I realised a friend of mine had actually started sharing a studio space with you a long time ago. So you're certainly someone who's been on my radar for a long time. I'm looking forward to discussing some of your projects. You've carved out a really interesting space in the hospitality and retail sector. But I did want to go back to the start of your journey. I know you grew up in Perth.
Yes.
Could you talk me through a little bit about that first study pathway when you left school?
Sure. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. I remember just walking around the streets of Perth and really being very interested in houses and even kind of details at the front of houses like letterboxes, and definitely in that kind of mid-century era. There's a place called Floreat, a suburb in Perth, that I used to walk around and just awe at some of the beautiful buildings back then. And I actually started a Bachelor of Arts, so I was studying fine arts, and that was over in the architectural kind of building, and had these wild and wonderful tutors, and I was like, these are my people. I get these. I get these people. These people get me. I had found my tribe, and so I actually applied to architecture and interiors. And got into both, but decided, one, that I really wanted to go to Curtin University of Technology. It was kind of a different campus to the UWA campus, and definitely interiors kind of drew me in. So that's where I started. It was a really fabulous course. I absolutely loved it. So hard, such dedication and discipline to kind of get through that course. Yeah. And I was working 5 jobs at the time. I had I was doing a lot like hospitality work, and I was working in a call centre and to get me through university as well. So that's where it began, and I graduated in 2004.
Yes.
And then moved to Sydney shortly after that.
Was that for a work? What sort of drew you to Sydney?
Well, actually, my dad had moved to Sydney, and he was going on a big trip, and he was like, come have my apartment in Potts Point. And I was like,
amazing.
Okay.
gosh.
And I didn't really know anyone in Sydney. I just knew that I needed to get out of Perth and I wanted a bit of an adventure and then started working at Future Space in Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was your first sort of main, I guess, interior related job.
That's right. Yeah.
On leaving.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Sydney before you moved down?
So I was there till 2009.
Right.
Yeah. So I moved. I actually I worked at Future Space for a couple of years, and then I then was lucky enough to be given a position at the White House Institute of Design.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I was 28 or 9 when I started that position, and I was running the interior department at that school. So predominantly a fashion school.
Yeah.
But I got given an amazing opportunity to run the interior department there for a couple of years, and actually the White House moved me to Melbourne when I moved in 2009 to do business development for the school here. So they were opening the White House Institute in Melbourne.
Yes.
But I was helping them transition from vocational education to higher education. So I was actually writing kind of a bachelor degree for them.
Oh, wow.
And running,
incredible.
Teams of staff. And I was really in the deep end in that scenario. But it was pretty amazing to be there, I think.
Yeah. Before we touch on, because I know 2009 was also the year that you opened Foolscap Studio.
That's right.
I did want to just touch on your family quickly, because I know you've had some interesting members of your family. Yes. Were there anyone particularly inspiring in that creative space which you feel has sort of influenced you in some of those early pathways?
Both my parents are kind of entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
I have my mum was a chef, so from a young age I grew up in restaurants.
Yeah, wow.
And I think for me that was a huge influence. I think being a chef is a very creative profession. But there's a huge amount of dedication and discipline involved in that, and you really it's long hours.
Yeah.
So they had restaurants, and so I remember kind of growing up, under tables and in little bunkettes and hiding out at the bar and with the swizzle sticks.
Yeah. All the good things. Yeah.
My mum used to make these like amazing hand cut chips, like crisps. And they were like bar snacks, so you just sit there and eat them all day. And so definitely, and my dad was sort of the maitre d', and then from there they both went off and ran their own businesses separately.
Yeah.
And so, I've always been influenced in that way, in that kind of entrepreneurial way, and that kind of running your own business was a second nature thing to me in a way.
Which is quite amazing, because I think for me, stepping out into that field, I found it quite overwhelming and quite different to anything that had happened around me. So I think that's a wonderful having that resilience and that intuition to be able to follow that pathway.
I had some really good role models. My stepmother is a bridal couturist.
Oh, wow.
And she has KWH, which is her own kind of bridal stores. So they're across Australia. And she's also been a huge influence in my later years, and a real kind of mentor and help in terms of what do I do when this happens, or what happens here. So having, an amazing female role model there in business has been helpful.
Yeah,
too.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you have moved to Melbourne in 2009, and that was also the year that you started your amazing studio, Foolscap Studios. So that's coming up a few years.
16 years.
Work it out, 16 years. Should have thought about that earlier. What was that decision process? So you had this amazing job, obviously like a busy role with the Institute.
Yes.
How did that evolution into your own business start?
It was quite organic. I mean, so whilst in Sydney, I actually I was working at Architects Frontier. I was volunteering at Architects Without Frontiers also, and I was part of a lobbyist group lobbying for the liquor licensing laws to change.
Oh, wow.
So it was called Raise the Bar.
Yeah.
And essentially it was to pass Clover Moore's bill for the small bars.
Yes.
Because at the time in 2017, 18, it wasn't 2017, 18, it would have been
2008, 9?
Yes, thank you.
10 years before.
The liquor licenses, there was no small bar licenses, so that it was they were called like the bigger liquor barns. They kind of had a stronghold over the licenses, which meant that culturally in Sydney, smaller operators couldn't run bars.
Oh, that's interesting, because in my head, Sydney, the thing I love is those smaller.
Exactly. They pretty much didn't exist because the licenses were really, really expensive. It was like $40,000 for a license.
Oh, wow.
So Clover had put forward this bill to make licenses $500.
Yeah.
Be able to kind of really restart a younger culture around these bars. So we lobbied for that to come into effect, and it did. And through that process, we had met some amazing people, Maurice Tazzini, John Fink, all of these amazing hospitality operators in Sydney. And I was really like, this is kind of what I want to do. I want to work in, I want to design these spaces. Yeah. So through that process, I started getting inquiries and started working on kind of smaller hospitality projects. Yeah. So that was happening at the same time as working at the White House, and that then kind of tipped over, once I'd moved to Melbourne, kind of tipped over into kind of medium-sized projects that then could really get me started in my own business.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember Patricia.
Yes.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, which still exists.
Yeah. That's one that's really stuck with me actually, because I thought, oh, how gorgeous. Yeah, that kind of bespoke.
Yeah,
coffee.
It was one of the kind of first standing room only cafes.
Yeah, and it was I just remember thinking it felt very international. I loved all the graphic component.
Yes.
I love stationery, so all the kind of printed.
And it was gorgeous, and we worked with Beyond the Pixels, hand in glove with the graphic design company on that. And but it was really thinking about hospitality in that holistic sense. Yeah. All the way down to those small touch points, and the experience of the customers, and that space was actually like a storeroom. And it was, transformed into this really amazing, it's such an iconic, I still get people come up to me and say, oh, Patricia, especially barristers and lawyers.
Oh, how funny.
It's really in that kind of, in that location in Melbourne City.
Oh, that's amazing. So at the moment you operate offices out of Melbourne, Sydney and Perth, which is quite incredible.
Yes.
Was that quite a natural evolution again into sort of evolving your business structure?
Definitely. So we, Melbourne is sort of the headquarters of Foolscap, and it always has been, but probably in around 2020, we pre-COVID, we had one of my colleagues, an amazing close friend of mine who I studied with actually at Curtin University of Technology, Renee Tapley. Yeah. She was working overseas, working at Universal Design Studio in London, and had come back and had started working at a larger firm, a larger practice in Sydney, and then gone on maternity leave. Yeah. And I took that opportunity to see if she could
help you out.
If she could work on some projects. We had some projects land in Sydney, and it was a very organic kind of, could you go to this site meeting? And then she, finally, after a lot of pressure, agreed to start working and leading that studio. And then we slowly built up a team in Sydney. And then she decided to move back to Perth, and she bought this amazing Ivanhoe house. Wow. And that's been her little project for a number of years now. But she was like, what do we want to do? And I was like, well, let's start up a Perth studio. And we have had projects in Perth. Me being originally from Perth, we have a lot of contacts and people that we know, and we've definitely done a lot of work there prior to the studio opening. So it was a very organic and natural kind of next step. And, you know, ultimately these businesses are about the people that kind of are leading them and running them. And so naturally finding the right people and having them run the studios is the only way that you can do that, I think.
What are the sort of studio sizes like in Melbourne, Sydney and Perth?
So we have 4 in Sydney and 4 in Perth, and then we're 8 or 9 in Melbourne.
Oh, it's amazing. And do you sort of share that project work a little bit around just depending on where the
exactly. So for instance, we've got a large project in Dubai at the moment, and our team across all 3 states are working on that. So it's kind of it's skills based. It's also kind of where the resources sit at the time. And it depends on, you know, whether we've got we try to work on projects in that state with the team in that state. So obviously it helps with delivery. I'm a very firm believer in kind of building relationships and managing relationships in person. And so I think having people on the ground is very important. I don't think you can do it from a distance properly. But then, you know, what is really unique about the way that we work is we're kind of like a little studio or a big studio in a little formats, like little satellites. But we are able to, if we've got a really big documentation package that needs to get done, we can pull everyone together and get that out quickly.
Because I was going to touch on some of you have done lots of wonderful projects and found a real niche, I think, in that hospitality and that sort of modern workplace design, and some huge, like the ANZ project was a really big one. So I think that's a really interesting concept that you can kind of ebb and flow depending on the...
We're like a firm believer of, you know, we work at all scales. I love working at all scales. I think it's really important for practice to be able to do small creative projects where we can kind of lean into our conceptual and creative abilities and skills, and then take that kind of knowledge and approach into these larger projects, but be able to deliver these things in safe hands. So we all talk about that in our studio, this idea of really being able to hold the projects, really being able to deliver on time, and stand by our documentation, and have, you know, our team have come from such a cross section and have, you know, a lot of experience from bigger firms, and we're bringing that into our firm so that we can manage these larger projects at the same time.
A lot of documentation, a lot of furniture.
That's right.
I was also really interested to note you have done the Commons, which are beautiful projects and quite a modern workplace concept compared to that more traditional sense. Is that so? And it almost combines elements of that hospitality.
That's right.
I guess as well. Have you seen quite a shift in that approach to workspace since
definitely
COVID?
So we've worked with the Commons for probably about 8 years now. It's been a really long-standing relationship, and we just love them. I love them. They're a fantastic client. And we've always been, I mean, even during COVID, we were in touch with them when everyone was like, what is going to happen to workspace? And I've absolutely loved the workspace typology because I think there has been a lot of shift and change. And I think that COVID has been the kind of the impetus for that change in a really positive way. I think to a degree, workplace was a little bit broken, and you know, post-COVID, we are able to meet online. We were able to be, you know, kind of technology, Wi-Fi, laptops, all of those things has enabled us to be more nomadic in the way that we work.
And adaptable, I guess, to lifestyle demands as well.
And I think, you know, I had this conversation with Cliff Ho, who is the founder of one of the founders of the Commons at the time during COVID. And we had this session online, and it was like a 3-hour kind of like, where are we going to go? Where's workplace going to go?
Yeah.
And it's amazing because they've come out of COVID and just their trajectory is just huge out of COVID because what we're seeing is that amenity is so important in new development. So flexible amenity like co-working. You know, we worked on a project called Forum in Dover Street here in Cremorne. And, you know, Adidas was going into the building and they wouldn't go in unless there was flexible co-working space. So it is an amenity that is really needed now in these new developments and even kind of retrofitting of building. And what the Commons are also bringing now to it is wellness and a fully fledged wellness offer.
Yeah, it's an interesting space, that wellness space. Yeah.
It's so fascinating, and I think it is a tsunami coming at Australia right now. And you know, wellness. We talk about wellness in lots of different from lots of different perspectives. Wellness, you know, the fact that potentially you could be working in a location and have an amazing gym and wellness facility within that is obviously part of that. But I think also, you know, this idea of allied health. Within those scenarios, so doctors, physios, psychologists, embedded within that that offer, and you know, and we're also seeing, you know, obviously the yogas and the Pilates and all of those. They have these beautiful bath houses that are all kind of custom built. So I think it's a really interesting space to be working in wellness and kind of where that is going, because we know even kind of younger generations are you know, they're not drinking as much as our generation.
I know.
They're not partying.
It's making me feel very old.
But they party in different ways, you know. And we work with a lot of, like, for instance, we work with a lot of coffee customers as well, clients. Like Honor and All Press and Sensory Lab, and we see there's this huge kind of trajectory in that. You know, there's a lot of, we know that the alcohol companies are buying up coffee companies because that is actually where we socialise now.
And I think it's that element of sociability as well. Like, I know, as you know, working in a smaller space, sometimes that appeal of being in an environment with others is quite attractive. You know, it's sort of getting you out, but you've still got control over your own space. You're not having to pay for an entire office.
That's right.
Sort of situation.
Exactly.
And then having those amenities is hugely appealing. But yeah, it's that sort of sociability factor, I guess, as well, isn't it?
Definitely. It's kind of small to medium to large businesses. You know, that's what the Commons hold, and it's, you know, it's all the way from, you know, a sole practitioner trying to just get out of their house and be in that convivial kind of third space.
And they're beautiful spaces.
Yeah. You know, to kind of enterprises that are kind of scaling it down and moving out of the cities and kind of into these co-work environments that are beautiful and hosted.
Yeah.
And so we see more of that kind of hosted amenity.
And secure, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Have you seen a bit of a shift in the retail? I find retail spaces really interesting as well, because they're sort of often, for me, I think from a design point of view, I'm just as drawn to a space by who's designed it as to what the product
definitely
in there is. Is that something, have you seen a bit of a shift in trying to get people back out into stores that kind of focus on retail?
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Probably in 2025, we worked on a number of retail spaces. Yeah. So Song for the Mute, Alpha 60. And I do think there is I wouldn't say it was a return, but I definitely think there is brands are kind of leaning into, you know, the physical as much as the digital. Yeah. They kind of in parallel to each other. But I know that customers and clients are seeking those experiences. And design-led experiences, as you said. I think ultimately design plays such a big role in these retail environments and representative, that physical embodiment of those brands and organisations. So I do think that is something that we're seeing a lot of. And I think back to what I was saying about these, I guess, amenity. I think the retail at the base of these developments is just the most vital thing for these developments to survive. So it is about that really the curation at ground plane and what goes in there, what sort of mix the F&B and retail mix to kind of make these places and precincts, bring them to life.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing what other projects you've got coming in the next year as well. I did want to touch on, in line with all your amazing interior design work, I know you've been a really key advocate for designers at the DIA and involved in a few practice groups as well, which I think is incredible given the amount of time these things take and they're often voluntary as well. So I think, that's a really amazing thing. I think sort of ethically, I think that's a really important part of what you do as well. Can you talk me through a little bit of your involvement in the DIA at the moment?
Yeah, so I've been involved in the DIA for a number of years, just as a part of a practitioner group. So originally we started a small practice group and a medium practice group to get together with like-minded firms at a similar scale and talk about all the things that you don't really talk about otherwise, kind of a sharing of knowledge and, how are you doing this or how does this work? And it's really been a wonderful safe space for the cohort to kind of get together and talk about practice in general. And so that's really where I started with the DIA. And then from there, we, as part of that, we really talked about this idea of registration for interior architects.
Very topical, yeah.
And, obviously architects go through a registration process and that means that their customers and clients on the other side of that really can understand what architects do and what they kind of bring to the table.
And I guess that kind of, I always saw it when I was studying architecture as that final piece of the puzzle, so to speak. It was like the final piece of your education, if you like, and kind of tech. Now I'm an architect.
Exactly. It was a thing of like, well, I've done all this study and then in order to practice, I know that I have to do this one little and that registration process really goes into kind of contracts and insurances and all that other side that you don't really learn at university.
Well, and it can be a little bit daunting as well, that sort of liability.
The liability
no one
thing.
Wants to
and the reality is we as interior designers we are liable for those elements, for those things that we're touching, wet areas and walls and all of those parts of the project. So we really feel like it's a necessary step for our industry in order to get registered and in order for our for there to be an understanding of what we offer.
And it can be a very broad terminology, I think, whereas with architect it's always seemed quite tight.
That's right.
Everyone was quite clear on what that meant. And so I think now working in that interior design space, I was lucky I had a wonderful mentor in Hamish Guthrie, who I know you know as well. And he's really
in my practice group.
supportive of getting through that process.
Yeah.
So it was really great to have someone like that to sort of advocate. He's like, absolutely do it. So I was really pleased I went through it. But I think, it certainly wasn't something that was on my radar when I started working more in that interior space. So I hope it all comes.
I hope it does. And,
smoothly.
It's such a broad, there's, from stylists all the way through to interior designers or interior architects.
Big span of
It's pretty
skills.
broad. So it's kind of defining what it is and kind of what everyone does within that space. And, Hamish is in our working group. And I think we will hopefully get there for our industry and, kind of create a bit more clarity on what it is.
Yeah.
And, I've always loved the idea of the AIA even kind of being part of that registration process for interiors.
It's a very integral process, really.
So integral. It's
yeah.
so hand in glove with what the architects do. We don't want to be, we want to be together in the process. So, yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. I did want to talk to you a little bit, I guess more on a personal level about things that inspire you. Your practice has been going, did we work out 16 years, which is amazing. And I think as creatives, it's obviously a lot of our motivation comes from staying inspired and really into the kind of work that we're doing. Is there anything that you particularly do as part of your routine or within a year, like travel, that keeps you really motivated in the kind of work that you're doing?
I think that the week-to-week, day-to-day routine is really important for me. So, like, obviously kind of getting exercise is very important. And, I do yoga and I actually do dance every week. So I think
fun.
Dance is my favourite thing. So I'm part of a thing called Body Electric, which is super fun.
I actually think a friend of mine was telling me about this.
Yeah.
Is it? I think she has like a theme.
Yes.
Yeah.
We make all our own costumes.
Yeah.
It's very, very fun. And it is that kind of creative outlet beyond business and interiors. And of course travel. I think it's really important to go out to the world and be inspired by what's happening overseas. So travel is a big part of what I do.
Yeah.
Reading is also very important.
Yeah. It's almost that balance, isn't it, of seeing new things but also giving yourself that mental kind of like the quiet moments.
That's
and
right.
a bit of clarity.
Yeah.
And stepping away.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. I did also want to touch on your family. I know having kids and working is very busy. Has that sort of changed the way that you've approached work, having children?
Definitely.
Yep.
I think, so my son is 4. He was born in 2021. So, that was definitely a game-changing moment for me. It's been completely inspiring. I love being a mum. But obviously your time is split, and not to say that I don't think I have less time necessarily, but you're just more efficient with your time. And, I'm dedicated to kind of both projects, that of Foolscap and that of my son and my family. But I think, what has been a really amazing, even when he was born, the day that he was born, we received notice that we were shortlisted for the NGVC competition.
Oh, wow. I got a little bit busy.
And we were kind of right in the midst of COVID when he was born as well.
Yep.
So, it was quite an amazing time because I could be at home with him, but I could also actually be practicing and working from a distance. So I remember kind of being in like jury panels and breastfeeding. And, I guess that's the gift that there was a lot of terrible things that happened during COVID, but that was also the gift that COVID gave us. And I think as a woman in practice, being able to do that is completely a gift, because I would have had to have gone in to these jury sessions had COVID not existed. So I think since COVID, the world has kind of opened up for women in practice.
A bit more adaptable.
We don't have to be at coordination meetings in Sydney. We can be in coordination meetings online. I remember having to travel to Sydney every single week when we were working on Noma, Australia. It's the time that you gain back, and that time can kind of go back into being a mum, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's sort of carving out time for yourself as well. Can just be that mental.
True.
What I find hard sometimes is coming home and just parking work.
Yeah.
And trying to go into pleasant mother mode.
That is a challenge.
Very stressed.
Exactly.
I mean, that's good.
I think when you own your own business, it doesn't ever stop.
No.
But I think having practices in place like yoga or meditation, or even, like I ride a bike from work to home, and that kind of space between work and home helps defrag from the day.
Yeah, or your sort of phone away and
Yeah.
just you can't do that at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Before we wrap, I wanted to ask you some quick questions in her edit. I was interested to know the first design-related purchase you ever made, like piece of furniture or artwork.
I was trying to think about what it was, and I mean, I know one of kind of the key pieces that I own is a Featherston.
Oh, beautiful.
We purchased it from Grazia & Co.
Oh, yeah.
Just before Bala was born. So I actually bought it as a feeding chair, and it is one of my favourite pieces of furniture.
That's so beautiful.
Very, very, very comfortable. Perfect for breastfeeding.
An adaptable piece.
Exactly. And I have we're currently going through a kind of refurbishment of our house. And so exciting. It will kind of feature at some point somewhere. It's probably going to recover it and do something fun with it. But
oh, fun.
Yeah.
How are you finding doing your own home?
Challenging. Slow.
I was saying that to a client yesterday, actually. They were really struggling to make some decisions, and I was, being quite but the minute I have to make a decision for myself.
Oh.
Challenging.
Well, we went through a brand refresh last year as well, with Jack and Studio, and it was an amazing process, but it was very, very challenging because we hadn't we hadn't done that process for a long time, and it was great to kind of bring up all those questions and ask yourself all those questions about
quite introspective.
your brand, but really hard to answer them.
Yeah. But looks good. New
Thank
branding. Next travel destination, actual or aspirational?
I mean, I have really wanted to go to Iceland for a very long time.
Oh, that looks amazing.
But, with the current state of the world, I don't know how much travel we're going to get done this year, but we have booked in a trip to Uluru.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Have you been there before?
Never been.
Oh, it's breathtaking.
Is it?
Beautiful.
Yeah, very
awe-inspiring. I grew up in New Zealand, so the scale of the landscape to me is something else.
Yes.
Yep.
And, it's always on my radar to do more travel in Australia. And being from WA, I know that kind of West Coast really well.
Yeah.
But, really, really excited about going to Uluru.
Yeah. No, it was quite spiritual. And, I just remember just the scale. Incredible. I don't think there's anywhere in New Zealand that flat.
Yeah, exactly. Stunning.
Oh, amazing. Favourite creative icon, living or legend? Is there anyone you find particular? I know it can be hard to define
there
one
are
person.
Just so many.
Yes.
I mean, I love the work of Faye Toogood. Obviously a living icon.
Yeah.
And I think she has such a diverse practice, and the objects that she creates are stunning.
Amazing.
But she kind of works across all mediums, so fashion and interiors and object. And I love that about what she does. But I would also say Ray Eames.
Yes.
Charles and Ray Eames have always been kind of such a huge, I wouldn't say influence, but I love their work, and I love the way they worked, their process,
Very
and
timeless.
the impact on the design kind of landscape is infinite. It's still happening. And, I guess Ray at the time, being a woman, obviously working hand in glove with Charles, but she was a huge part of that practice, and and I think her impact in that practice, kind of lives on. Yeah.
No, they're beautiful. Classic.
Yeah.
Last question: if your star was a celebrity, who would it be?
A really difficult question. And I would say Tilda Swinton.
Oh, I love Tilda Swinton. Yeah, that's a very good answer.
I think she is, she's extremely contemporary, interesting, She has a beautiful warmth to her.
Yeah.
She's always kind of pushing the boundaries of her work, I think.
Yeah.
So
She's got a depth
yeah.
to her thinking. Yeah.
So I'd say Tilda.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Adele. I
Thank you,
really enjoyed
Sarah.
speaking to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.